Hey y'all, iRick's Guy here, and I wanted to post another follow-up review for the Tamron 28-75 constant f2.8 aperture lens. Actually, that's the lens that I'm filming this green screen video with. So what are my follow-up opinions in regards to the Tamron 28-75? Well, the thing I want to reiterate about this lens, and by the way, if you're looking for this lens, expand this video's description and then click the link there, and you can find where to order it online. But the thing that I like most about this lens, beyond the amazing price, is the fact that it's small and that it's lightweight. You know, I love the Sony G Master 24-70, but it's a heavy lens. It's a bulky lens. It's a lens you put on your camera. If you don't have the right kind of tripod, it can really make that front heavy, and you may find that both your camera body and that Sony G Master lens are falling forward, and that's could potentially be an expensive mistake, especially if you don't, well, even if you have a UV filter on it, it could still be an expensive mistake. So with that being said, let's talk about the Tamron 28-75. Just a really nice lens. People initially, and I was kind of on the fence before I ordered mine, people were saying, oh man, the build quality, you know, it's kind of like a cheap plastic, dude. It doesn't feel that good, man. And like it's like, man, the focus ring and the zoom ring, they're opposite from what, you know, someone's accustomed to. So, you know, I listened to all that, and I thought about it, and I'm like, this, you know, the build quality statements, they kind of made me curious. You know, is it going to be poor build quality? But as soon as I took it out of the box, I felt confident that it was a very well-made lens. Sure, it's not as heavy and it's not as big as the Sony G Master 24-70. That's a close competitor of this lens, but it seems to be very well made. It by no means feels like a cheap knockoff brand lens. I mean, it's got a good feel. The zoom ring feels really nice. It feels good on the hands. I will say the zoom ring, and if you're doing a lot of video, and it's not an obnoxious noise, but it does make a sound when you zoom in and out. It's kind of like, you know, if you rub your hand across your arm like that. It's kind of that type of sound. Not really loud, but if you're using on-camera audio, there is a possibility that you could pick up the sound of the zoom ring in use while you're filming a video. There's a possibility. You may not. But as far as the autofocus, I don't notice any noise when the lens is autofocusing. So picking up noise from autofocus, at least for me, has not been an issue. This lens does not have in-body image stabilization, but neither does the Sony G Master 24-70 that's a close competitor of this lens. In my camera body that I'm using, you can expand this video's description and find it there, but it's got built-in stabilization in the camera body, so I don't really need it in the lens because I've got it in the body. I found the video performance of the Tamron 28-75 to be great, and I am using the most current firmware. And I was a later adopter of the 28-75, so when I received mine, it had already been updated to the most current firmware. Some people that picked up the original versions of the Tamron 28-75 reported that there were video autofocus issues. I have not encountered that. I found the autofocus on this lens to be just as good as my Zeiss or my Sony G Master lenses. So it's a really good, I mean, just excellent quality. And that's autofocus not just for video, but also autofocus performance for still photos. The 28-75 range, a lot of people have said, man, 28 is kind of weird. And I thought that it was weird at first too. But when you think about it, if you do what I do, if you have a 25mm prime lens, which I do, it's a Zeiss Batis, and then you have an 85mm portrait lens, 28-75 fits right in the middle. So if I'm going to be shooting a landscape, I'm going to be using my Zeiss anyway. If I'm going to be shooting a portrait, I'm going to be using my Zeiss 85. But if I want an all-around, walk-around, easy-to-travel with lens, and I don't want to carry multiple lenses, I'm going to be using this 28-75 Tamron. The things worth mentioning about this lens, and this was something I was curious about, was the if you're doing video and or photography, and you want to defocus that background, what's often referred to as bokeh, defocus background. If you look at the bokeh side by side, Tamron with the Sony G Master 24-70, you're going to find that it's very similar. But I will say in certain situations, I've captured bokeh with the Tamron 28-75 that some people may consider to be distracting. Again, all of that's subjective. It hasn't been a problem for me. I've continued to use this lens. Actually, this lens has become the lens that stays on my Sony Alpha most of the time. Just because it's small, it's lightweight, but I have that constant f2.8 aperture. So, it's not like a cheaper lens where I'm getting an f5.6 or so. I mean, I'm getting f2.8, but also I'm getting it at a budget. I mean, the price of this lens for how it performs and its specifications it's absolutely a deal. And again, you can expand this video's description and then click the link there, and you can find where to order it online, the current pricing. I do know that when this thing was originally released, that the price increased. I guess Tamron realized that, whoa, dude, we've released a very hot lens. We could probably charge more and still sell it. And that seems to be the case. I was a late adopter, so I ended up having to pay more because I didn't buy one of the original lenses. I bought the one after they had already updated they were selling them with the most current firmware version on the lens. Speaking of firmware updating the firmware on this Tamron 28-75 was just as easy as updating the firmware on my Zeiss or my Sony lenses. Super streamlined process. Fired up their app, connected the camera body with the lens attached to it to my computer, and followed the instructions within their app and updated the lens's firmware. So this thing is there's nothing, and again, back to the focus ring and the zoom ring being the opposite orientation that most people are used to. It hasn't bothered me. It feels natural. Actually, I use a lot of different cameras. I use a lot of high-end camcorders. So when I'm using those, I'm often accustomed to having a different feel for where the zoom ring and the focus ring is. And then in the camcorder realm, I've got aperture ring, I got zoom ring, and I got focus ring. So I got 3 on those. This one has 2, obviously, zoom and focus. So this lens, the Tamron 28-75, unlike the Sony G Master 24-70, this lens does not have a focus hold button. This lens does not have the autofocus on and off button on the side of the lens. It doesn't have any buttons on the side of the lens, which isn't an issue for me. I never really used them on my Sony G Master. Sometimes I would use the autofocus to manual focus, but then I'm like, well, I don't have that on my Zeiss lenses. So I've got a custom button configured on my camera body to go from AF to MF. So I was used to using that anyway with my other lenses. So the absence of that on this lens, that's not a selling point for G Master over Tamron 28-75 for me. And again, the biggest sale, just to recap about this lens, number one, the awesome price. Again, expand this video's description and check the link there. But number 2, how close it is in performance to the Sony G Master, which is Sony's flagship lens line. How close in performance it is to the G Master 24-70, but the price is so radically different. And then also the smaller size and the smaller weight. This lens is easy to carry along with other gear in your bag, possibly other lenses in your bag. Do what I do, grab you a 25 and an 85, have the ultimate kit that's lightweight, and it's a great performer. It doesn't make my camera feel poorly balanced. If I'm doing an extended duration shoot and I've got it around my neck on the neck strap, the G Master is going to start to get heavy after a while, but it's a lot lighter. Doesn't make the camera front heavy on a tripod. It's just a really good all-rounder. Now again, I've only used it for a month or so. So it's going to be interesting to see how well this lens holds up over the long haul. I have no concerns regarding the build quality. It feels very well made. Sure, it doesn't seem to use as much metal as a lens like the Sony G Master does, but it feels, to me, it feels very well made. It's, I mean, I don't know. This is one of those lenses that, you know, Tamron has really knocked it out of the park. And this is something that'll hopefully lead to, again, like my other video discussed, hopefully Tamron will bring us a, you know, a telephoto lens, something in the up to 600 millimeter range, or even better, something beyond 600 millimeter range without the use of teleconverters, because that would be a good alternative to the Sony G Master 100 to 400. Because if you're using it and you want to go out to 800 in full frame, you got to use a teleconverter, and that's another piece of glass, something else to carry around, not to mention additional expense. So tell me what you think, and again, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video, and share this video and any of my videos with others. And expand this video's description, and then click the link there, and you can find where to order the Tamron 2875. You can also find the microphone that I'm using, the tripod, the camera body, and a whole lot more. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, iRick Sky here. Thanks again for your viewership. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video. If you're looking for iRick Sky's Adventure Channel merch, like this t-shirt and a lot of other cool stuff, expand this video's description. You can find it all there. Y'all have a good day.